What a packed weekend of cricket. What a treat we have in store for you after the Saturday doubleheader. It's time for Super Sunday. And yes, Sharjah is not quite done yet. We're going to start in Sharjah and carry on our little trip across the Emirates. That's what we have to start with. It's Mumbai against Hyderabad. And then two teams who are really coming off losses, Punjab and Chennai, are going to be locking horns in Dubai. Locking horns for us on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. Sometimes agreeing, occasionally disagreeing, but having lots and lots of fun. Harsha Bhogle Joy Bhattacharjya. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hi, Harsha. How are you doing in the desert?
Joy is the one with the horns. He's the goat. When he sets those questions, he's the goat. He's the one with the horns. I'm just about struggling to have this, let alone horns. But it was hot yesterday. I mean, I was out yesterday, back into my hotel room yesterday. Actually, there was a breeze in Abu Dhabi yesterday, so it didn't feel that bad. Everyone said it's going to be impossible. When the breeze stopped, it was tough. Today, Sharjah, I don't know if there's a breeze, but with the ball traveling so much, it'll create its own wind as it goes.
The first question, Joy, that we're going to have to look at, and it'll be answered as the afternoon goes on, is Sharjah. Yes, it's already been, we're talking about the sixes, but Sharjah at night versus Sharjah in the afternoon, will that be even more of a torture for the bowlers?
No, I was just thinking that, Siddharth Kaul is one of the better bowlers, got a chance to play for India. Now he suddenly goes back and says, I've got a chance to get back in this season. So this is like the coach saying, I've got good news for you and I've got bad news for you. The good news is you're going to play today. Bad news is you're playing in Sharjah. So, I can understand how it's going to be for them. It's going to be a phenomenally tough task to bowl in these conditions. In that heat, I mean, at least to be, at least they had the breeze in the evenings. In the daytime, it's going to be a killer. And I don't envy those bowlers at all. I don't envy any bowler bowling in Sharjah.
Look, there's another way of looking at it though, which is if I'm expected to go, average scores here, each of the 6 matches has gone for 200 plus. So average scores 210. So if I'm expected to go for 41, 42, you know what? I'll try and go 37. Normally 437, not a great game, but here it becomes a good game. So maybe they'll say, look, I've got nothing to lose. That's what I would have thought. I've got nothing to lose. Everyone expects me to get hammered, so good.
Now, let me update you that Simon Rule yesterday, he was with us on the show. And when we were previewing the game in the afternoon game, the first of the doubleheaders, he said, if the side who wins the toss doesn't bat first, I'm not coming on the show. I'm going to be at the pool all day. Fortunately for Simon, we had a full show. Today, we actually deployed him at the toss just to make sure they didn't do anything untoward. Rohit Sharma didn't. He won the toss, decided to bat first, big smile on his face. So he wasn't quite over the moon about it. He just said, it's what I'm supposed to do, so I've done it. We'll come back to more of...
Yeah, supposed to do is So supposed to do is an interesting one, but it's 12-4. It was a no-brainer. It's 12-4 batting first. But I was just looking at some 200 plus scores, by the way. If you work on the assumption that Sharjah is a 200 plus ground. So I just I just found some stats. In the IPL, 74 times have teams batting first made more than 200. Teams batting second have won 11. In T20 internationals, teams batting first have made 200 plus 92 times. Teams batting second have won 13 times. It's an absolute no-brainer. 85% of the time in 200 plus games, the team batting first wins.
Yeah, I was only reacting to Rohit's demeanor, but we'll come to the teams. We'll come to Mumbai and Chennai in a moment. We talked about good news and bad news. Well, here's some good news and bad news. I'm going to tell you how you can pick your My 11 Circle team. The bad news is you have to pick some bowlers. You cannot pick 11 batsmen, much as you might like it. You've got to divide between batsmen, bowlers, keepers, all-rounders. And once you do that, pick a captain, hopefully a batsman, pick a vice-captain, hopefully a batsman. And then you can go with hashtag Dada Ka Vada. I've heard even Dada's going to be trying to pick 11 batsmen, but even he can't. Despite all his influence, even he can't do that. Let's come to the 11s today. Mumbai, Rohit Sharma, the only thing he was unequivocal about was the fact that, yes, they're playing with an unchanged 11. Something, gentlemen, we sort of expected, but let's go and have a look at that 11 anyway.
The only certainties in life are deaths, taxes, and Mumbai Indians lineup. That doesn't change. And it just tells you why they've been such a good side, in that they don't feel the need to make changes. Look at this, apart from Quinton de Kock, and he picked up a great catch, I think, a couple of games ago. There's not a single person there who's not contributed to a win. Ishan Kishan did. Surya Kumar Yadav's had a couple of good innings at the start. Even Krunal Pandya had a very good game the other night when he came in the power play and changed the course of the match. So other than Quinton de Kock, everyone's had a contribution to make, which is not something too many other teams can say.
But it's very interesting. If you look at it, what is the Mumbai Indians? Mumbai Indians, we say, are cruising. They're looking like a winning team already in this tournament. They're 2-2. That only goes to show you that how, it's just the way that they seem to be playing, even their wins and their defeats, that people are saying that these guys are the best team in the tournament. They're 2-2. Rajasthan is also 2-2. But you're not saying Rajasthan is a championship side. This Mumbai side is looking like one. See, the only other change I can see out there is if and when, perhaps he already is, Nathan Coulter-Nile gets fit, they might look at it and say Patterson for Coulter-Nile, because they'll keep a left arm. Zahir was very clear. One day we were speaking about it in our studios, in the Cricbuzz studios, and he said that, we've done a lot of research. You need to keep a left arm quick. There is just so much evidence in its favor that, you can't not change that. So Bolt will stay unless he's injured. Nathan Coulter-Nile, but this is a set lineup. And, Saurabh Tiwari will be thinking one match unfit and then gone. Whoever gets his chance is not going to let go.
Well,
I think Saurabh Tiwari is thinking 2 matches. I think Saurabh Tiwari is thinking I got 2 matches more than most people thought I would.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think, in Quinton de Kock's favor, he's not really done anything to disrupt that winning combination in a sense, despite not contributing. So he's still there for the moment. So they do have the option, as we discussed, with Ishan Kishan taking the gloves. Let's not talk about Mumbai anymore for the moment. Hyderabad, they've had to make one change. That was a forced change, of course, in Bhuvaneshwar Kumar going out. They've made one more. So 2 changes, both in terms of the Indian bowlers, Sandeep Sharma and Siddharth Kaul, which without Bhuvi now looks even more inexperienced. A lot of chatter about, can Billy Stanley come in? The other part of the chatter was, how does he come in? Is it Johnny Bairstow? Is it sacrificing Williamson? Well, the question's been answered. Stanley's still sitting on the sidelines and hitting his head on the top of that dugout. So Sandeep Sharma, Siddharth Kaul, Harsha, is that lineup looking a little bit weaker?
In high school chemistry, we studied degrees of freedom. I think if you look at Sunrisers, because of the fact that they don't have a good top order Indian batsman and have to play Williamson, their degrees of freedom are very limited. So they want to play Fabian Allen, I'm sure at some point. They want to play Mohammad Nabi, let alone Billy Stanley. So if you think today's a day for Billy Stanley, who are you going to say? I mean, Kane Williamson comes in, he strokes a beautiful 40 in his first game, makes the difference between winning and losing. So I think that degrees of freedom are very limited. But Joy makes a very valid point. You put these 2 teams side by side, I tell you 90% of the people will say Mumbai Indians should win this game. And yet they're 2-2. Rajasthan Royals are 2-2. SRH are 2-2. So, it's telling you a thing or two, this tournament. But when you take away 2 India internationals, and I know that Siddharth Kaul and Sandeep Sharma have played for India as well, but that was some time ago. It leaves a big hole. I mean, I'm looking at that side from Mumbai Indians' point of view, and I'm thinking, play 4 overs of Rashid Khan. Who else is going to hurt me? And I don't see anybody there.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, Harsha. Before we started the show, we were talking about Kieron Pollard and a massacre that he had very recently in the season. They had a very similar approach that day. Mitchell Santner went 4 overs for 13. Rashid Khan went for about 11 or 12. They kept those guys aside, and he still made 82 of 28 deliveries. So it just shows, as you said, that the same Mumbai Indians, Pollard's in there, they can look at this lineup and say, okay, we'll respect Rashid Khan, but we'll go after the rest, Joy.
No, yeah. And there's one more thing. See, one of the advantages of, I wouldn't call it an advantage, but you look at it another way. As Harsha said precedently before, that if everyone's going for 40, you go for 36. You're like the goalkeeper in a penalty situation. Everyone expects you to concede a goal. It's the other guy's onus to actually score that goal. So that's 1 plus. 2 is that if you are in that situation, if you're under the pump already, then there's less pressure on even the bowlers who are coming out. If, say, Siddharth Kaul was playing in Dubai and he said, if I don't get a great performance, I'll possibly be dropped next time. Here he might be thinking, look, everyone's going to go. They're not going to hold this against me just because I didn't perform well out here. Because, bowlers, the quality of Pat Cummins have gone. Everyone has gone for runs out here. Sheldon Cottrell has gone. So he might just look at it and take advantage of the opportunity. They are literally they are like the goalkeepers. Here, the bowlers are like goalkeepers in a penalty situation. There's no other way to
I just have one thought. Even though Mumbai Indians are batting first, Gautam, I wonder if they think, look, 210 is been the average score here, right? 210, 215, something like that. I wonder if their mentality will be like a chasing side, almost as if to say, look, we have to get 210 here. Whether they start playing 210, or whether they say, no, I mean, they're cleverer than we are. But I just wonder if in their head they will have that issue about desperately needing to make 210.
Well, points to ponder, but since Harsha has already started off us all on a lesson of high school chemistry, let's not forget things you learn in high school you can apply later in life. Harsha has done it once. Let's try and apply some high school mathematics here, because you really need that when you come to Sharjah and you start comparing it to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, grounds, dimensions, average scores. Don't forget your maths teachers, guys, because you'll need it. Look at the stories so far. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and we're also going to follow up that, Harsha, by saying it's a huge difference from 2014 till 2020 for the same Sharjah ground. Harsha, talk us through this.
Yeah, we've been thinking whether Sharjah has been pulled in too much. We looked at the boundary ropes there. Straight boundary is about 73, 74 meters, 70, 72 meters or thereabout, which is not ridiculously different from the other grounds. I was in Abu Dhabi yesterday. One boundary is about 64, 65 meters. The sort of where it curves around behind square, it was a little smaller. The other boundary was 80 plus meters. That is the difference here. The square boundaries are 62 and 65 meters. But you know what? You can look at all the historical numbers for Sharjah. I think we have to say today's players are stronger. We've credited the bats way too much. Yes, of course the bats are better. But we were saying that in 2014 as well, weren't we? That the bats are good. We were saying that in 2016, 17, the bats are good. I think they're just becoming stronger, and I think they're becoming irreverent. There was a time when even now when the batsmen go out, they do sort of show some reverence to the area. I think the boundary ropes must all come together as a union and say show some reverence to us, because we are here. We are supposed to be a boundary. What's the definition of the word boundary? It is something you should not be crossing. There's different world on the other side. But I think it's the strength. I mean, the other day, which game was I doing? Kyron Pollard came and was a leggy bowling to him, and he didn't even hit the ball. He just did, and it went 80 plus meters. So, where is he going to hit it? I don't know. I mean, the only good thing from Pollard's point of view, as opposed to someone smaller, is that 66 meters gives you the same result as 90 meters.
I suspect it was Ravi Bishnoi on that occasion, but Joy, do you concur? Evolution of the batsman?
I think evolution of the batsman and evolution of the game. Because if you look at it, the figures even in 2014, the 6 matches played here, of course, 6 is not a very large consideration set. But you still had scores which were much, much lower. The average scores were about 160, 170. They were not this high. So you're talking a 200 plus here. So 40 runs, 2 things it tells you. It tells you that teams today have prepared much longer for Sharjah. That means they're telling from far before that in Sharjah, if you're not getting 200, you're not scoring. So they're mentally prepared for larger targets. So they're telling their opening batsmen, your target in the first 6 overs is going to be 65 to 75. They're setting targets like that. And most teams set those 4 over, 6 over targets. That's how they go about it. And I think they would have just upped the bar and said, it's like basically a nice, like a Unilever sales team. You've done very well last year. Here are your new targets. You now have to score 70 in the power play. And that's exactly what's happening. So there is also an appreciation that the numbers are going to be higher. The numbers must be higher than last year, and anyone working in FMCG will understand exactly what they're saying.
But there's a difference between working in FMCG and working as an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur will say, "Okay, let's do 10 times last year." FMCG is easy, obviously 10% more than last year. But there's one other factor that Shane Warne's been going on about, sometimes politely, sometimes a little less so, about the quality of bowlers. And I wonder if there's a factor there. Is the quality of bowling on flat decks going down? Is there a bowler, say you look at Bumrah and say, right, even if it's a flat deck, hang on, I've got to be a little worried about Bumrah. He's quick in the air. We saw that with Nokia the other day. Nokia, quick through the air. Rabada's quick through the air, and he went for runs at the end. I just wonder if it's also the quality of bowling.
I think one point Brett Lee told me, and this again, not too long back, and he said this, and we asked him, in one of those days, why don't you bowl more Yorkers? Because, Brett Lee is a terrific bowler. He really spears it in. He's very fast. Why doesn't he bowl more Yorkers? Why do they go for length? I mean, if you can bowl a Yorker at will, why don't you bowl more? And he said a very interesting thing. He said, it's not that. It's that because of the size of the bats and the strength of the batsmen nowadays and the fearlessness in hitting, the margin for error is much, much less. So it's come down from about 6 inches. You have to land in a 6-inch space or a 1-foot space before. Now, if you don't land in that 3-inch space, you are going to be taken. That's one. Secondly, he said that one of the things that has really evolved over the last 6-7 years in cricket is how batsmen use the crease. And Pollard was one of the guys who started this, standing deep in the crease, then coming out of the crease, then standing almost outside the crease to negate swing bowling. So batsmen are also using the crease a lot better. So, when bowlers say batsmen definitely have evolved, and I don't think Warren was being particularly kind out there in any case, but I think it has to do with the game evolving and batsmanship as a concept evolving, not so much about the bowlers.
Well, I think it's a proper...
My last interruption, I promise, my last interruption. They'll send me to Parliament otherwise if I continue like this. See how far back, because George mentioned how far back Hardik Pandya stands in his crease. So far back that he actually hit the stumps last time. Yeah, he stands so far back that, and that's precisely to be able to hit the Yorkers. Okay.
But yeah, I think it's been no, you don't have to put your finger on your lips, Harsha. I know I mentioned classroom, but you don't have to do that. But it has been like a high school lesson. We started with Harsha's chemistry. Then we proved that it's a bit of biology, the strength for the batsman, a bit of physics, the bat, and lots of psychology. So all the subjects are being covered to try and prove why, along with a bit of maths, Sharjah is providing so many 6s and 4s. Now, from all that, since we touched on marketing, let's really talk about boost time right now, the boost stamina meter. You don't want to run out of stamina on a hot afternoon in Sharjah, and who's the most likely person to be steaming on there? Let's have a look at the leaderboard first, and then we'll tell you who's on our boost stamina meter. It's number 4. We've got lots of big names up there. Andre Russell leading with the stamina score, but David Warner, he's playing today. He'll be in the chasing side. And if you have a look at his overall rating, we showed you 84.9. He's been at the pitch for an average of 47 balls. He'd like to increase that a little bit. Hasn't spent that much time. Fielding rating of 92. Saved 9 runs. Attempted 2 catches. So by his standards, perhaps he'd like to up that a little bit, Harsha.
Yeah. Average time on the field, 47 balls. That means his average innings is 47 balls long, which is incredible. I mean, in the year in which he made 800 runs, his average innings was 40. Yeah, averaging was 40. I think in the year Virat Kohli made 900, also his average innings length was 40 balls or thereabouts. So if he's playing 47 balls, it means his strike rates come down, which is also visible. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what they're saying out there, which is why that stat is a bit misleading, is that's the average spine he's sending the field, not himself facing. So he has the other guy also facing. So totally, they'll be facing about 65, 70 balls. I mean, that's how it's happened, because I think he's averaging about 24, 25 balls. But
yeah,
it's interesting that, he is, the standards that he's kept for fielding and the way that he goes back to being a boundary rider. As a captain, going to be a boundary rider once in a while is really difficult. And then he keeps running up, talking to the bowler, going back again. He does a lot of that. He allows Williamson to talk a lot to the bowler because he says, you know what, I need to be there out in the field, the crucial positions. So I think in terms of, giving his all for the team, it's fair to say that, today he's a man who's turning around and saying that I may not play Big Bash. He's far more committed to playing the IPL than playing the Big Bash. And that tells you a lot about what this franchise means to him and what his performances for this franchise, do for him as a person.
Yeah, that was a fair clarification on the number of balls. We're getting to understand the whole stamina meter better and better. But another person, lots of stamina, always in there, will be in the team batting first. I briefly mentioned him a few moments ago, and his impact in a place like Sharjah, depending, of course, on where he bats and where he comes in. Karen Pollard this season, if you have a look at him, hasn't played in Sharjah yet. Mumbai haven't played here yet. 3 out of 4, in fact, in Abu Dhabi, which of the 3 grounds is the least of the boundary hitting grounds. And have a look at his impact so far, picking up from where he left off in his home country of Trinidad, Harsha.
It's ridiculous, no? I mean, what is a good strike rate? Our definitions are expanding too. What is a good strike rate? I mean, we're looking at 128 in that first one saying, yeah, you had a bad game, 18 or 14. But look at 185, 250, 230. I think someone's got to tell him that this is not like a country where inflation is on the run and it's like we don't print the right-hand side on the menu. He should have some connection with the... But I'm thinking of the bowlers today because Pollard is a fear factor. Just as Russell is a fear factor. Even when they are not batting, they are there in your mind. And that's why I was not too happy with Russell batting at 4, because if Russell is waiting, then the bowlers are planning differently for fear of what Russell will do. Similarly, Pollard is the fear factor in this side. And I think that affects how people will manage their bowling attacks, for example. But I'm just thinking if Pollard gets a few in today, then it was like Chris Gale at Chinnaswamy. Keep some guys in Carbon Park.
But Joy, do you think they learn a lesson from the Russell factor yesterday? Because I fully agree with Harsha. We've all talked about it. Morgan at 4 would have been absolutely ideal. Make people wait. Russell comes in and does the damage at the right moment. So I'm sure Pollard will be padded up from the very start, but they need to send him in at the right time.
No, absolutely. And I'll take you back to an era which I know very well, which is the Second World War. So in the Second World War...
you said that, Joy. You walked into that one.
So in the Second World War, the Germany had 2 battleships, only 2 battleships. Okay, you've got to hear that. Okay. So Germany has only 2 battleships, the Bismarck and the Tirpitz. The Bismarck goes out, sinks one of Britain's biggest ships, the Hood, but then gets chased, has a battle, and they finish off the Bismarck. It's a tremendous chase and lots of British ships are involved, but they kill it. The Tirpitz does not get out of its bay. Wherever it stays, it just stays safe. But it's sitting on the south of France, a huge, 42,000-ton battleship, and it can come out at any time. 15 British battleships were kept just to make sure that somebody is there when the Tirpitz comes out. So by not coming out also, it just totally impacted the war. The amount of time they spent on trying to first they tried to bomb the Tirpitz, they tried to, lure it out of there. It would just sit there and say, okay, you don't know when I'm going to come out, but if I come out, you guys are in trouble. And I think that is exactly what Harsha was talking about.
It wasn't just a big ship. It was a 42,000-ton ship. That is why Joy has horn. That's why he's the GOAT. Because he knows it's 42,000 tons. It's not some big battleship. People like us who speak English will say, or speak languages, say it was a big ship, colossal ship, giant ship. Joy will say 42,000 tons.
All right, let's try and come back to 2020 if we possibly can. Because during the Second World War, Sharjah was just a patch of desert. There was nothing there, not a ground, no dimensions. But we've got a couple of minutes, maybe 1 minute for you if you want to make a last-minute change. So you want a last-minute tip. Here it comes, our My 11 Circle Trump player. And this is what our Trump card for today is, Priyam Garg. You saw what he did in the last game, and he's an impact player. We talked about 5, 6, and 7. We talked about them almost anonymous before the previous game. But remember those names. And Priyam Garg is certainly a name to remember. Slip him into your team if you haven't already done so. We've got a mouth-watering battle that lies ahead. But since Harsha already mentioned the horns, I can tell you even before it comes on that today the horns are off, the gloves are off. Joy is in a very generous Sunday mood. Give it to us, Joy.
Yeah, but it's a fun question. And if you're not into quizzing, this is the kind of things that makes us quizzers interested, What was achieved exactly 8,766 days ago with a bat originally belonging to an Indian captain in an African capital city?
Yeah, for those of us who remember that era and not World War II, we'll pretty much pick that up in the snap of a finger. But last thing before we let you gentlemen off the show, the My 11 Circle Badge of Honor, Harsha. While you've been away, Joy has been walking away with them. Sean Pollock has, Simon Dool has. I haven't had any luck, so don't look at me. A big one coming up today. It's Sharjah. It's the middle of the afternoon. Are we going 200 plus? And if so, how much beyond?
The only reason I'm laughing is I can hear the producer in your ear saying, stop these guys from telling all these stories. Come back to the rundown. Come back to the cricket. And I'm saying 212.
All right, 212. Joy, higher, lower?
189.
Well, I don't like squeezing in between, but this time I will do that because that's the figure I had in my mind from the beginning. Is going to be an even 200. An even 200 is what I'm thinking, which might just be the kind of score that.
I mean, he quickly added up, divided by 2, and took off the decimal and made it 200.
We're done with maths. We're done with high school maths for now. I didn't have time to do that. I just stuck in a figure I had in my mind. But yeah, so we've got 189 to 212. Add a few runs on either side. That's the span we've got. We'll see how the progress is on the 10th over. We'll talk about it on Cricbuzz Combox, and then we'll be back at the halfway mark. Only the first of 5 times today on a big Sunday. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.